Charles and Dr. How. Relate to this.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Howe.
Good evening. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, listen, man, I'm doing outstanding. I'm just excited once again to be here on the show. Relate to this, where we talk about some of those questions that sometimes don't get discussed in relationships, right? And so,
Yeah.
you know what? Let me say this: Have you ever watched going on a date? Or when I say go on a date, it could be at home, right?
hmm
But basically, to get to this point, you watching a TV show, or you watching a comedian, or you watching some program with your significant other, and while you're watching it, that comedian or whoever it is that's on the screen will say something in joking, but it could be serious. And in your mind, right? In your
hmm
mind, you're like, oh my God, did he just say that particular thing, something that you wanted to say out loud to your
hmm
significant other, right?
hmm
But you were either afraid to say it, or didn't think how they would discuss it, or whatever the case may be. It just came to my mind when I just said what I said about the show is we will say some of those questions that you want to say, but you either don't know how to say it, or you're just hoping that somebody else says it and a discussion occurs, right?
Yeah, and you tap him
Um,
like, "Oh, what do you think about
right,
that?"
right. There you go. Right, right, right. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Or you hear a
Well,
comedian
well.
say something.
In all honesty, you asked the question, but you already know the answer. You know, I've been struggling with my filter for years, so um, I I don't have that problem very often. Matter of fact, my problem is saying too much.
Right, right, right,
So
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
we got somebody who watching and listening that don't have that spirit of leaky faucets.
Mm-mm-mm.
So that's what's up. So good evening to our audience, and I would ask that you would like this podcast, share it, like it, share it, comment in that order. So I'll say it again: like it, share it, comment.
And then
Because
subscribe.
and then yes, yeah. And I'm sorry, and what I thought I said. What did I say? Like it.
You said like it, share it, comment, but you
Oh,
also need
well,
to
we hope
subscribe.
in between that you're subscribing to it, because guess what? The same thing you said, that was a good word. That's my boyfriend. That's my girl. Share that with somebody, because
Yeah,
somebody else need to be
definitely,
saying that.
definitely.
Oh, that was good. That was some. Ooh, they said they touched my spirit. So share it, like it. Oh, that's what I was saying. The subscribe is the whole like it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So subscribe to it, so that you can get the latest and greatest of the broadcast, and you can learn
So let me ask
more
you a
about.
question, because you brought up something. So what's a question that you have been wanting to ask me or find out about a relationship? Maybe not necessarily yours, someone else's. Wink, wink. That
Wow. Wow. You know what's funny? I don't think. I think that in our episodes in this, relate to this. I think I've actually asked you some of those questions, and you didn't even know it.
No, I
I
knew
think.
it, but I want to know, like, people think that we're scripted, so I want to
Oh,
know.
I got you. I feel you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I think one of the questions that I probably in meeting you, we've known each other for good grief, almost 20 years now. I mean, it's been
Yeah,
a while.
yeah,
I mean, time has flown by.
yeah.
I think one of the questions is, how do you stay, and this is, a serious question, right?
Uh-huh.
How do you stay humble, right? So through the
Mhm.
years, with as much knowledge that you have, and in some of the conversations that we've had over the years, how do you stay humble? I mean, I look behind you,
Mhm.
and you have written multiple books, right?
Mhm.
You do all of these different shows, and workshops and all those things. In all of that, what keeps you grounded?
My wife.
There it is. That's the question. There you go. You say
My
it again.
wife keeps me grounded because my wife is always telling me, like, I've done several presentations for the church, and when I did my first presentation, I was in deep study for 3 years. And so when I was asked to do the presentation, I put it together. My wife was like, before you go out there, you got to run through this with me and your daughter. And they kind of tore me down, and they're like, you know, you got to take this out. You got to put this in. You got to say it like this. And a lot of times when you think you have all the answers and you trust other people's opinion, emphasis on the word trust, you will learn to be humble. Because I remember a few months back, I was talking to my wife could not sleep, and I was up doing my stuff because I like to get up between 4 and 5 and do my writing and stuff like that. And so I got up and I was sharing with her the peace method. And I said, you know what, I've been talking about this peace method, but I just came up with 3 levels, and I'm going to create a training where people will go through these 3 different levels of the peace method. And she
Before
said
you-
to me, okay, go ahead.
Before you say that, just some folk didn't join us the last time, and
Oh.
they tell me the peace method. So when he's talking about the peace method, it's the acronym. It's processes, evaluating, acceptance, commitment, and enjoyment. And this book that he has here, the peace method to love and happiness. That's where you can find these processes, evaluating, acceptance, and commitment, and enjoyment. So anyway, go ahead and continue. Go ahead and continue. Dr.
And this
Al.
can be
Sorry, I had
found
to
on
cut you off.
Amazon.
So the people,
It can be
available
found on Amazon and Audible
Cool. Yes, sir.
and Kindle.
And
Yeah. So anyway,
the digital copy. Yeah. So go ahead.
yeah. So you have electronic, digital, paperback. So I was talking to my wife about the peace method, and I said, "Hey, babe, I got these 3 levels, and I'm going to put out this training that people can get these 3 levels." And she was like, you know, and this was like the first time she was really excited about it. And so she said, "Well, explain it to me." And I explained it to her. And she said, "Well, why don't you add this, this, and this?" And by the time we were finished talking for an hour, it had gone from 3 levels to 5 levels. Now, mind you, she's never done any research on what I'm talking about or what I'm doing. And so the humility comes in where you're willing to trust the person that you're with, to take criticism, to take advice, and to add their ideas to your ideas to make it better. I think people stop learning and stop being effective when they think that they've mastered anything to the point that no one else can tell them anything.
Right.
So I stay humble because I'm willing to listen to other people. I stay humble because my wife keeps me humble. I stay humble because I keep learning. Now, another thing that I learned last week, Myron Golden, if you've never listened to Myron Golden, you got to listen to him. But he was saying that the people who know the most feel the dumbest, and the people who know the least feel the smartest. And he said, imagine that you have a ball like this, and you have 4 spikes sticking out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these spikes are receptors to whatever this is. So let's say this is the topic called love. You only have 4 receptors that you can learn new stuff about love. So as you're walking through your day, you hear people talking. If what they're saying doesn't match one of these 4 receptors, you don't learn anything new about love.
Right.
So in your mind, you know everything there is to learn about love, or you think so, because none of the information is connecting with you. But as your layers get bigger and bigger, you have more spaces where receptors can stick out.
Right.
So think about an associate's degree. you only have 2 years worth of knowledge. And so your scope of understanding is only based on 2 years. If you have your bachelor's, you have 4 years of understanding. So you're going to have more spikes sticking out. When you have your master's, you have 6 years of experience in learning. So you have 6 spikes sticking out. When you have your doctorate, you add another 3 or 4 spikes to that. So it is easy to listen, and you are like, oh man, I never thought about it that way before. Oh man, I never thought about that way. When I finished my doctorate, I felt so dumb because there was so much that they taught me that I thought that I had a better understanding of life, but they showed me I didn't. So I also stay humble because I read other people's works. So even as a relationship coach and consultant, I read other people's ideas on coaching and consulting for relationships. And I see other perspectives, and that keeps me humble.
That's what's up. I mean, that, and the reality of that is, and I want you to mark this day, that's going to be one of your books, how I stayed humble. That you had 5 chapters in there, right there. About 5 chapters so far. But you're absolutely right. I mean, when it comes to humility, when it comes to what you said about the smart person feeling dumb and the dumb person's, I'm not going to call them dumb, but you understand what I'm saying, feeling smart, because you run into those situations and you can tell. I mean, let's be honest. You can tell those individuals who genuinely know exactly what they're talking about, right? And then those who absolutely have no idea. Because when you finish the conversation, when it's all said and done, you walk away asking yourself, what
The what?
what did I just listen to? You know what I mean? And so I like the fact that you said, this is how I stay grounded, right? And you explain that so that our audience understand that the way that you stay humble, the way that you stay adaptable, really, is that you're not afraid to say, I'm wrong.
You're right.
You're not afraid to say, you know what, there is a different aspect to this, right? So listen, watch this. I'm going somewhere with this, right? So I'm not afraid to accept criticism because it's only going to make me better.
Yes, not bitter.
Not bitter. And so my question, right, as we lead into, I always like to set the plate, if you will,
Yeah,
set the playing ground. So my question, as it relates to what we were just talking about, and humility and acceptance and things of that nature, I want to dive into this question here. What are the signs that a relationship may need some work? Now, I want to say right off the back, and I'm going to continue with that trend of humility. I think one of the signs that a relationship may need some work is when you can't accept responsibility. Is that a fair statement, you think?
If you cannot accept responsibility, your relationship needs work. Definitely. If you cannot accept your role in what is going right, as well as what is going wrong. See, people are quick to say, "Oh yeah, he's successful because of X, Y, Z." And I was listening to this girl was ranting. I mean, she was just saying, I'm a high value woman because I do this, that, and the other. And the interviewer said to her, when you met your husband, was he a millionaire? No. When you left him 5 years later, was he a millionaire? No. What did you add to his life? So it's easy to say, yes, I am X, I am Y, I am Z, whether you're male or female. But the proof is in the pudding.
Right. Right.
Is your spouse happy? And so women have not necessarily been trained to keep their husbands happy, but
Mm-hmm.
men have been trained to keep their wives happy.
Mm.
Men have been trained to think happy wife, happy life. But I subscribe to a different thought process, which is happy spouse, happy house.
Let me
Because,
ask you.
yeah, go
Let
ahead.
me ask you a question because I feel like in one of our episodes,
Hmm.
our early episode, and this is where I add my piece to this puzzle.
Hmm.
I believe in one of our episodes I mentioned that
Yeah.
that I didn't like the term happy
Hmm.
wife, happy life.
Hmm.
I feel like back then you may have disagreed. I may have to go through the tape. And I think since then you have done deeper research, and I like the happy house,
Happy
happy
spouse.
spouse,
Now, I
happy
did
house.
not come up with that. I heard
I
that
like
along
it
the
though.
way.
I like it. I like it.
But one of the things that I subscribe to, in one of our early episodes, I talk about how relationships start out transactional. I
Yes.
have something you want, you have something I want, and we basically barter back and
Yeah.
forth to get what we want from that individual. And I think what you're alluding to is this. I said that we need to get to the point where we become uh, of service to our partner. So our aim is to make our partners happy, but that's for male and female. So if I choose the right person and that person is not a narcissistic person, the more I do to nurture and transform that person or help them transform into the best versions of themselves, the
Hmm.
more they will want to reciprocate that to me. And so being of service means I'm not in it for me anymore. So I have transformed myself from a transactional person to a person of service.
Mm.
But I'm getting it back because I chose the right person and they feel kind of crappy if they don't give back the same type of service that I'm giving to them.
Hmm.
And so to me, the most important part of a relationship is who you choose.
Right.
Because if you choose the wrong person, you can pour and feed into their soul, but you get nothing back. It's like a hollow pit. And that's when people feel like I'm not getting anything out of this relationship because it's
Mm.
one-sided. So you have to make sure that you choose the right person. But once you choose that right person, then you are now capable of flipping that transactional to transformative, or from transactional to service, where now I am feeding into you and you're feeding into me. So it's no longer egotistical. I'm not ego driven. I'm not reward driven.
Hmm.
I'm driven by just helping you become the best version of yourself without wanting anything in return. And that's the
Right.
hard part. Because think about this. If before you left the house, you told your wife, I love you, and she said yes, and you be like, okay,
Mm.
do you love me back?
Right.
That's transactional.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? That's how deep it is.
Right. Right.
If you get upset because she does not say the same thing back to you, that is a form of control and manipulation. And that also means that you are doing something to get something in return.
Right.
So being of service is being able to say I love you and walk away if you don't get that in return without being in your feelings.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. So when you don't get what you want out of a relationship, that is a sign that the relationship might need some work. It doesn't mean the relationship is bad, because
Hmm.
you got to see if your lack of happiness is because of you and your perspective.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're not happy because you selfishly want more than you're willing to give. Or you may not be happy because you're still in the transactional stage. Your relationship has not progressed as the time has progressed in your relationship. See, if someone says to you, he's the same way he's always been, either that person is still looking at the old you or the remnant of the old you, or you need to change because you haven't grown any.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I want to say this: relations never stay stagnant. They're either growing or dying. One day you wake up and your relationship is dead, and you're like, "Whoa, I didn't see this coming." Well, did you do anything to prevent it? So that's what the peace method is about: being intentional about checking to see if you are doing what you need to do to keep that relationship healthy. Are you cultivating and maintaining a healthy relationship? Another sign that your relationship might need some work is constant bickering. If you're bickering and fighting over stupid stuff, that's another sign right there. Another sign is lack of trust. If you don't trust them in any shape, form, or fashion, even, for example, and it can be as simple as this. I remember last week, I was giving my wife directions, and I said, turn there. And she was like, why? And then we had a discussion about why did you not want to turn there? Was it a trust issue? Was it something else? Do we need to talk about that? Because a lot of times we let things go under the carpet.
Right. I was just about to say that.
But it might be something that is festering. It might be something that I did earlier, maybe a year or two ago, or maybe last month, that caused a slight seed of distrust.
Or
address it.
Right. Yeah. And even past the distrust, I mean, it could be, you're holding it in, right? And the littlest thing would be the littlest thing could end up separating you, right?
Yes.
So you have this
never
big thing.
separate divorce over small. Over the big stuff.
Right.
It's always the small stuff.
Yeah, it's oh, you didn't swap that light out. You know what I mean? Like you forgot to flush a toilet.
You forgot to put the seat down.
Toothpaste wrong. Yeah, right. So and it ends up being the smallest thing that causes the biggest blow up because you allow the biggest thing to fester and just to kind of steamboat its way through and not saying anything about it.
Since we talking on the topic, I'll get a little transparent. I'll give a little bit of my laundry. So I like to sleep in the full-fledged dark, right? My wife likes to fall asleep with the TV on, which is okay if you turn the TV off at some point in time. But if the TV stays on, what happens is between 2 and 2:30, there's going to be some shooting scene, some fighting scene, or some screaming scene that is loud, and it wakes me up. And now I'm up at 2, 3 in the morning, and I get upset. And so for years we've been having problems with that. And it finally got to the point where I'm like, yo, we gotta do something about this because you're forgetting to turn the TV off, and it's waking me up at 2, 3 in the morning, and I get up at 4 anyway. So you cutting between me and my sleep, and I have a problem with it. And at first she was like, well, why are you trying to control the situation? We're both grown in here and we should be able to. And I'm like, yeah, but we grown. And so grown people need to turn the TV off when they know they're falling asleep. Now, I'm saying that to say this. We could have gotten divorced over the TV being on at night. And in retrospect, it wasn't big enough of a problem to get divorced over. But in retrospect, it was.
Right. No, right.
I put some of my dirty laundry out there for people who want to see how something small can be a big issue. Now, I'll give you a second example. When we first got married, we lived in an apartment in Alabama, and it had we had one bathroom, and it had one big vanity. And back then, we used to share toothpaste. Now, growing up, my mother taught me to squeeze the toothpaste tube from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
My wife would just grab it and squeeze it in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go, there's a big old dent in the toothpaste, because back then the toothpaste tubes were made out of metal, not plastic. So you couldn't straighten it back up. And so, and then her complaint with me is, I left the sink wet and she wants the sink dry. So that became a problem in our relationship as newlyweds, but we found a quick solution. The next place that we got had two vanities.
Right.
So now we had two toothpastes, two sinks, two soaps, two dispensers, two of everything. And ever since then, we've had two of everything.
But so to that point though,
Mhm.
what do you say to the individuals who can't get that, right? They can't get the two sinks. They can't get the two toothpaste. They can't get two beds. They can't,
Yeah.
so what
Well,
what
hold
do
on, I
you
ain't say two
say?
beds now.
I know.
I ain't doing too
I
bad.
just had to add that piece. But I mean, so what do you say to them? Because your solution, because really, let's be honest, if we put it out there, the issue has not been resolved. So you mask the issue by getting two of everything, right? So the time, because what's happening is at some point somebody gonna run out of toothpaste, right? Somebody's gonna run out. I think it's gonna be your wife, the way that she's pushing the toothpaste. But somebody will run out of toothpaste and say, "Oh, I need to use your toothpaste," right? So it's still going to show again, regardless of the 222. What do you say to that couple or those who are trying to be couples or whatever that's dealing with the same thing you're dealing with right now, but they can't go out right now and buy the next place? They're
Yeah.
talking about, I need help right now, Dr. Howe.
Okay.
We got this toothpaste. We got this. The TV is on. The bill is
Toilet
going
seat
up.
is up.
Yeah. So what can I do now that's going to
Okay,
help
well,
me for the future?
listen, there is an acronym that came up way, way long ago, and I used to use it in my classroom because I used to be a Christian teacher. WWJD, what would Jesus do? And so at the end of the day, I always say you got to go from transactional to service. So if you're going from transactional to service, what will service look like to your partner?
Mm.
If she wants a dry counter, dry the counter. Take ego out of it. Now, I'll even go as far as to say this. If you and your partner identify what your end goal is in your relationship, and everything you do, you remember what your end goal is. And I believe I said this on the show before. My wife and I, we want a beach house or a water house.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we do is in alignment with that last outcome. And so when ego gets in the way, I say to myself, is what I'm about to say or do going to come between me and this beach house? And she thinks the same way because we're working towards a common goal. And so if you both have something that is strong that you both want to achieve, and you're both going in the same direction and you both want the same thing, and you're being of service, then you take ego out of it and you say, what does this person need from me right now?
Right. Yeah.
And you provide that. And like I said, if you choose the right person, they will also do the same thing for you.
Mm.
And so I don't need to be selfish because you got my back. You don't need to be selfish because I have your back.
Wow.
And so being of service is the best way. If I communicate to you what I need, not what I want, but what I
Mm,
need, and you try to meet me halfway or full way, and we're both doing that, that resolves most of the problems. Now, here is a caveat that we need to throw in the mix. Nobody gets everything they want. That's why
absolutely.
I said needs. You will only be happy with your partner and their behaviors up to 70%.
Mm,
That 30% would drive you nuts. You got to work through that. And to work through that, you got to find your why, the reason why we doing this. Because I would rather go to bed with the lights totally off, but that is not her. So I had to compromise. She has to set the timer so that it
mm,
was shut off. Not because she wants to, but because that's her compromise.
right.
You know, she likes the fan blowing. So we bought one of those upright flat fans that blow on her, but not on me.
Right.
And so we do a lot of compromising for each other because that's what service means.
Mm,
And so if you move from transactional to service, it takes the ego out and you both are doing what the other person needs. Now you gotta be honest, you gotta be transparent, and you gotta separate your wants from your needs, and then
mm,
tell your partner what your top three wants, top three needs are. And that's what you all both focus on. And once you master them, you throw another one in the mix and another one in the mix until you're doing 20 things without thinking about it.
so then in what you're saying is like this. So I'm gonna dramatize it. So these are my wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we sit down and we got the situation with the toothpaste.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want you to stop pushing the toothpaste from the center. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says what her needs are. I need you to go out and buy your own toothpaste. You know what I mean? So the
Well,
compromise.
listen, hold on. But before we do that, there is a technique called the I statement.
Yes.
Instead of trying to control other people, because all we have control in life over is our thoughts, perspectives, actions,
Mm-hmm.
emotions. That's it. We can't control other people. We can't even
Right.
stop a baby from crying. So how you gonna control a grown man or a grown woman? So let's stop trying to control each other. So she would not say to me, "I want you to stop doing this." She would use an I statement, saying, "I feel hurt when you don't remember to
Right.
wipe
Yeah.
the counter
Absolutely.
down when you're finished.
And they call it the
Now,
floor
I
check.
want you to stop doing this, and I need you." That's controlling. That's fighting words. But if you tell me your feelings, I feel hurt because you continually forget to wipe the counter down, and I get my hands wet every time I go in there in the dark, or and I'll say I feel upset when you squeeze the tube in the middle versus squeezing it from the bottom.
Right. Right.
So take away the control words and let the people know what your emotions are so that they can actually do something with it without thinking it's a time to square up and fight type situation.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Time is drawing, getting away from us. So I wanted to deal with this question that I have here,
Okay.
but it's going to be related to peace method, love, and happiness. Okay. So
Okay.
we'll put that kind of hand in hand because I think this question kind of
Hmm.
falls into that. So the question is this, and this will be our final question, if you will,
Okay.
for tonight. But this is the question: How do you define love, and has that definition changed for you over time? Now, I'm not saying directly towards you, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
talking about the definition of love And then I'm sure, because we talk about the processes, the evaluating, the acceptance, commitment, and enjoyment, I'm sure there's some way that you can tie the book you just showed us that's available on
Mhm.
Amazon and Kindle and all those different places, that peace method to love and happiness. Take it away,
All
Dr.
right.
Howe.
So I like that question. It's a very loaded question, and a lot of
Hmm.
people may not see how loaded it is. But yes, my
Hmm.
definition has changed. Let me start with relationships have a cycle. When they say that I'm blindly in love or crazy in love or whatever, when the first 3 months to up to 2 years are the butterfly feeling. Some people, the butterflies go after 3 months. Other people, it takes a good 2, 3 years before they kind of subside. The purpose of the butterfly feelings and that crazy in love is so you get a chance to learn each other. Because when you have those butterfly feelings, you miss all the negatives that you're going to see later on.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So your definition of loves might be butterflies in the pit of your stomach. Every time they walk into the room, you get butterflies. Your heart flutters, and the dreams that you have of them, and you can't stop spending time with them.
Right, right.
But that doesn't last. It's not supposed to last. That crazy feeling where you don't want to eat, you don't want to work, and you don't want to do anything else. Can you imagine if the rest of your life you didn't eat, you didn't work, you didn't go any place because all you want to do is be up under this person all the time, just smelling their air?
Right.
So that is not realistic. Grown people can't spend all day with each other most of the time. And so at the end of the day, that feeling is supposed to subside. So when I was a teenager, that feeling of love was that butterfly feeling and that heart thumping feeling and that crazy, I can't stop being around them feeling.
Hmm.
But I have learned in this journey that I have taken in my understanding of my own relationship and how relationships work for other people is that love is more of a commitment that you have for someone else, an expression of my dedication and devotion and commitment to someone else.
Hmm.
So when I say I love you, I'm saying I'm dedicated, I'm committed, and I am only about you and your happiness and transformation.
Hmm.
I'm about being of service to you. So it's no longer about the emotional. You still have emotions in there, but it's not it may not be the butterflies, it may not be the heart thumping, but it's the connection of I want to do everything in my power, in my human being to make you happy, to
Right.
help you blossom and be the best you can be, and have that reciprocated on some level towards me. But
Hmm.
even if you don't do it, I'm still willing to do it for you because it's no longer transactional. So my definition of love has changed because it's no longer physical and emotional only. It's a drive of commitment and wanting to make you be better.
Hmm.
So now it's a choice. Now it's the actions that I do. So when you look at the peace method process, what systems have I put in place to make sure I show and express love to you? The evaluating whether or not I am doing my checks and balances and asking questions. Hey, am I doing what you need in order to maintain happiness? My supply now, my job isn't to make you happy, but my job is to create an environment or create situations where you can amp up your own happiness.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Your happiness comes from within. but I can influence your level of happiness because I am intimately close with you, and because I do have some control over some of your experiences. I want to make sure that I'm giving you as many positives as possible. Now I know someone's going to say, "No, you don't have control over my experiences because I have to choice." Yes, I'm talking loosely,
Right.
because even if I smack you upside your head, you still have the choice to turn the
Mm.
other cheek. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Now,
makes
I'm not
sense.
advocating violence in relationships or anything like that. I was just talking about a biblical principle. Somebody hits you, you want to hit them back, but you have a choice to not fight. You always have a choice. And so when I evaluate this relationship, I'm evaluating my choices. I'm evaluating how I express my love to you. And then I accept the role that I play in your life and the
Yeah.
role that I play in my own life, my own happiness, and my own purpose in life. And now I am committed. The C is committing to the hard work, because people
Mm.
think when you get married, that's the end. No, when you get married, the journey is now starting. The fight is now starting. Because now that you got that person, now ego starts to set in, and now I want stuff my way, you want stuff your way. So the
Right.
hard work sets in when after you get married, after you say I do. And now you got to be committed to the hard work that it takes to keep that marriage maintained and cultivated in a healthy way. And then, last but not least, the one thing that a lot of people struggle with: enjoyment. A lot of people postpone their happiness. I can't wait till XYZ before I can be happy, or I can't relax until I achieve this. I can't be happy until I get my $1 million. I can't be happy until I find my perfect wife. So you delay your happiness. So now you're living a miserable life because you refuse to accept what you currently have.
Wow.
You're always hoping for something else. So you never ever are happy. And the weird thing about life is you never ever get everything you want. So now you will end up dying and having lived because you never reach your destination. See, the journey
Right.
is where you get your happiness. The journey is where you grow. The journey is where you develop. The destination is not what is the happy part. The destination is who you become. But you're becoming that every day through the journey.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to end on this. I heard a quote that said, "A lot of people die at age 21, but they're not buried until age 70."
Hmm.
Think about
Wow.
that. How many people walking around miserable because they're delaying their gratification, because they're internalizing stuff that they can't control? They're trying to control someone else and not control their own emotions. Because it's easier for me to tell you what's wrong with you and try and control you than it is to take that big plank of wood out my eye. So am I willing to evaluate myself and change so that I can influence you to become the best version of yourself? The best way to influence people is to change yourself.
Wow. Wow. So you say you die at 21, but you're not buried till
Age 70.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean that when you hear that, it it really gets your mind going.
Yeah.
Like you really you just opened up something there. You die at 21, but not buried till 70.
Hmm.
Wow, that's. I mean, I don't know if we want to end there. We normally end with a saying. I don't know if we want people to really relate to this, but
Can you
what,
relate to this? Well, hold on,
but we
hold on.
really
If they can relate to that, they need to come back for the next episode.
they need to come back to for the next episode. But really, it's something for you to really think about. What are you holding in? What are you holding back? What are you holding up?
Mm,
Right?
mm, mm.
In your relationships that is causing you to die at 21. Now we're using 21 as a number. It can be
Yeah, that
25, it can be 30, it can be 35. You see
could
what I'm
be
saying?
13.
So we're using that number. What are you concealing, if you will, that's taking the breath out of you? And so as Dr. Howe just said, if you can relate to this, you definitely want to be at the next episode, Dr. Howe. The next episode, we're going to deal with clingy people.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Clingy
Clingy
people.
people. We're going to see what our people think about clingy. Do you want to be in a clingy relationship?
No, because that's toxic.
Well, don't tell them
Toxic.
yet. Don't tell them. Don't let the secret out yet.
Yeah.
Don't tell them.
All right.
We asking them the question because they may say yes, I do. You know what I mean? We'll deal with that in the next episode. But we want this to sink in right here. You
Mm,
die at 21, but not buried till 70. Can you relate to this?
mm.
Listen, we'll see you all on the next episode of Relate to This. Have a good night.
Good night.
Relate to this.